What we'd like to describe now is again a summary, if you will, of this energetic alignment that is needing to occur. So understand that when you come into this physical body at a very young age, you begin to take on what we have described in the past as these energy packets. In certain traditions, these are also referred to as samskaras. We like to think of them as energy packets because we think of them like a little envelope. Within this envelope, there are three aspects. The first aspect is quite often the memory of an occurrence in your life. The second aspect is the mental perspective that was taken on automatically as a result of that experience. And the third aspect is the energetic or emotional charge that is a result of that mental perception. And all this happens automatically, reactively, because your human civilization has not yet been at a point in its evolution where it truly recognized itself as the observer of the contents of consciousness. Until this point, most people have identified themselves with the thoughts and with the beliefs and with the emotions, not the observer of the thoughts and emotions. But now, at this point in time, you're at a stage where you can recognize yourself as the observer, as we said, and you can start to peek into these energy packets that, by the way, are stored within the energy field of your body until a point in time when they can be released, which hopefully is now. So when the time comes that you're at the level of consciousness where you can look at these energy packets, this is the process that occurs. And it is a 3-step process. The first step is just learning to feel your physical body and the energy flow in and around the physical body. That's the first step. And we say that that's the first step because for many of you, you have been completely cut off from the feeling aspect of who you are. You remain in the thinking mind, in the intellectual mind, because at some point in the past you were taught that certain emotions were not acceptable, and so you have a resistance to feeling them, and so you stay in the thinking mind as a way to distract yourself from the feeling body, the physical body, the energy body. So the first step in this process of healing is just learning how to feel your body, learning to feel it physically and learning to feel it energetically. And then the second step in this process is learning to feel the emotions that arise within the container of your physical body and the energy field that surrounds it, without, as we had said before, without narration. So you want to pay attention when your mind is starting to narrate your emotional experience, and as much as possible, you want to return your attention to your feeling body and the sensation of the emotion, not the narration. And the reason that we describe the process in this way, and the reason we recommend this, is because when you narrate the expression of your emotion, you tend to reinforce that mental pattern that was the cause of the emotion in the first place. So you want to get used to the process of feeling your emotion as a sensation in your body without the narration. And you can help your children do this as well. So when your children are experiencing an emotion, instead of asking them, why are you angry or why are you upset? You instead ask them, what does it feel like when you're angry, or what does it feel like to be sad? What does it feel like in your body? And encourage them and encourage yourself to feel into the sensation as if it were a color or as if it were a shape, and describe the physical sensations that result as you feel into this emotion. And then the third step to this healing process is examining the mental perspectives that are a result of the experience that you had, but are also the cause of the emotional charge. So when you think of an emotional charge from the past, you can always relate it back to a mental perception that was formed. The emotion is interlinked or enmeshed with the mental perception. And the reason that there are many healing modalities on your planet that don't necessarily work is because they don't make the connection between those two things. So either the person is feeling the emotion but narrating it as they go, and so they reinforce the mental perception, or they are just not aware that they even have a mental perception and that is causing the emotion. So an important aspect of this work is making the connection between the mental perception and the emotional charge. But what we would recommend is that you have to release the emotional charge first. And that is why it is step 2. Because it is very difficult to repattern the mind or overwrite a program without first releasing that energy that is kind of holding it in place, if you will. Because that energy is a charge in the energy field in the body. So what you want to do first is release the emotion. It's like a good word to describe the process is neutralizing it. So you neutralize the mental perception by feeling through from start to finish the emotional charge of that perception. And then once the emotional charge has dispersed and dissipated, then you can move on to a period of self-reflection where you ask yourself, in curiosity, I wonder what the mental perception was that I was holding that was causing that emotional response. And again, we would like to recommend that you do this with this perspective of your mind as a computer. So your mind is running programs, it's running software out of a myriad of options of other software, meaning this is one perspective that your mind has taken on and that has stored in your energy field. But it is one of many perspectives that it could take on. And the work for you to do in this step 3 experience is to consciously take on a mental perspective that serves you and that feels harmonious within your energy body. Meaning, you can think of this process of trying on different thought forms or mental perspectives in the same way that you go to a store and try on clothes. So you can try on a shirt and look in the mirror and see how it looks, how you feel in it. In that same way, you can try on a thought form or a perception and see how your energy body responds to it. So for example, the thought form that dominates many people's lives is I'm not good enough. That's a mental perspective that is a result of an experience from the past. The energetic emotional charge associated with that mental perspective is shame. So if we were to repattern this particular mental perception, we would try on other perceptions and see how our, again, energy body responds. So you may wish to try on the perspective that is the opposite. I am good enough. I am more than good enough. There is nothing wrong with me. I'm an emanation of divine intelligence. And just feel into that program, into that mental perspective, again, as the observer of what's going on within the contents of your consciousness. And then notice how your energy body, how your emotional body responds. When you feel a sensation of harmony within your energy body, then it's an indication that that perception that you are trying on, so to speak, is in harmony with the aspect of you that is an emanation of Source. For Source is a perfect emanation of harmony, if you will. Harmony is a quality of Source. So when you feel harmony within your body, you know that you are matching or elevating yourself into the vibrational frequency of Source energy. And then when you reach that process, or when you accomplish that healing process for that particular energy packet or that particular little envelope that was being stored in your field has been resolved. And then you move on to the next one, right? Because this is a process. This is a process. And many of you are carrying around many of these little envelopes, and there's nothing to fear about them. Once you become accustomed with the process of how they release and how you return to this sensation of wholeness and this energy flow, then the process is no longer scary. What makes it scary is your resistance to feeling certain emotions, because you've been conditioned in the past that certain emotions are not okay to feel. And so when you give yourself permission to finally feel the full spectrum of emotions, knowing that there's nothing wrong with you, then this process becomes a lot easier. It's only the mental labels that you attach to feeling certain emotions that make it scary, because it threatens your identity. So for example, people who are cycling, we were going to say stuck, that's not the right word, but people who are cycling through phases of sadness, meaning they are creating and recreating these vibrations of sadness within themselves, are often labeled as depressed. So these people are experiencing almost like an attack on their identity. And that is not necessary, and it's not the case. Every human feels and is here to feel in this physical reality the full spectrum of emotion. Every emotion is representative of a vibrational frequency. And when you came here and agreed to come here and intended to come here, you wanted to feel the full spectrum of emotion. But you didn't really want to get stuck in the cycle of feeling the same emotions over and over and over again, especially the ones which you would label as negative. Although we would say there's no quote-unquote negative emotions, there are emotions that feel worse in the physical body because they are less in alignment with source energy, and there are emotions that feel better in the body because they are in harmony with source energy. But you wanted to feel the full spectrum so that you would have a fuller understanding of who you are as an emanation of source. So the fact that you are feeling a low frequency emotion is not a problem. It's your mental resistance to feeling it that is the problem, as we have said before. So the process, really, you could say that the process begins with loving yourself and acknowledging yourself and giving yourself permission to feel whatever it is you're feeling, knowing that you can process that feeling, knowing that that feeling is temporary, and knowing that when that feeling dissipates, that you will now be freed up to deliberately or consciously choose a new mental perspective that will create a different emotional response in your energy field. So you become the governor of your own mind, as we have said before, and to some degree you become the governor of your own emotional body. And that will bring you all great comfort, because how many of you are living right now is you are living in avoidance. You are living in avoidance of your emotion. You are trying to control outer circumstances for fear of certain experiences triggering emotions within you. These emotions are within you. These are the energy packets that we're speaking of. But you would feel so much better if you learned how to process them. Another word to say that is neutralize the emotional packet, neutralize your experiences from the past, so that you see the higher purpose in the entire unfoldment. You see the higher purpose in your life experience.